Esse aqui, ó.
Era pra...
Tá, mas é desse tipo aí.
Boa noite a todos.
Thank you, thank you.
Boa noite a todos.
Boa noite. Good night, Rinpoche.
Boa noite, boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Boa noite.
Geshe-la, can you unmute yourself, please? Because
Yes.
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 Okay. I think you can.
So, shall we start?
Sorry, my microphone is off. Nós vamos tomar o refúgio agora, mas antes de tomar o refúgio, a gente pode pensar alguns instantes sobre as excelentes qualidades do Buda, as excelentes qualidades do Dharma, e as excelentes qualidades da Sangha. E o porquê nós escolhemos esse refúgio. Por que nós escolhemos o Buda, Dharma e Sangha como nosso refúgio? Sangye chodan tsoki chonam chanchu badu dani kyatsi dagir chonchine gyepe sonki yola penshe sangye dupasho sangye chodan tsoki chonam chanchu badu dani kyatsu chi dagi shanye gipe sonam ki rola penshe sangye dropa shu sangye chodan soy ki chonam la chanchu badu dani kyatsu chi Daji gyonye gipe sonanki Drola peshe sangye drupa sho.
So, again, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, everyone, and we take a few moments to cultivate a good intention for being here. We can try to contemplate and feel, that may us coming here together with the good intentions, giving our precious time to listen to the Dharma, and to reflect and contemplate on them. May all of these become cause and conditions to have an imprint, to have correct understanding of all the teachings. and to be able to put it into practice once we have the understanding of the teachings. And to be able to cultivate all the realizations after putting into the practice, all the lumbering realizations. May it be cause and condition to achieve fully awakened state of the Buddhahood in order to be greatest help and benefit to each and every sentient being. So last week we discussed about the practice of the first 4 perfections from the 6 perfections, the perfection of generosity, moral discipline, patience, and joyous effort in virtues. And today we will discuss about the last 2. Become abiding and wisdom relies on the ultimate truth, the emptiness. So as Shantideva said in his guide to the Buddha's way of life, know that through the special insight, you will destroy all the delusions. And in order to have that special insight, then you need to cultivate the karma abiding mind. And therefore, once you start in practice of cultivating the karma abiding mind, because the whole purpose of our practice is to overcome all the delusions, all the destructive emotions. And in order to destroy all the afflictive emotions permanently, completely, from the very root of it, we need to cut the very root of all the delusions, and that is fundamental ignorance. And in order to cut the very fundamental ignorance, we need to cultivate the wisdom, the special insight. And without the karma abiding, then we cannot develop the special insight, the wisdom of special insight. Therefore, first we need to cultivate the karma abiding. And also, Atisha's, in his Lamb of the Path to Enlightenment, similarly says, when the branches of karma abiding have disintegrated, you will not achieve single-pointed concentration, despite the most diligent meditation for thousands of years, So, in order to our practice and meditations to become strong and effective, we should cultivate the calm, abiding mind, that can focus on the object of meditation without our mind getting distracted and wandering up here and there, because with our mind wandering and distracted, even if we meditate for a long time, it's hard to achieve the result. Similarly, Shantideva also said, whatever practice we do, from a long time, if we do the practice with a distracted mind, when our mind is not into the object of meditation, but our mind wandering here and there, then, it's hard to achieve any spiritual realizations. you know. And so therefore we need to develop a strong, undistracted mind, you know, a mind that can concentrate and focus without distraction, without any wandering off. And therefore we need to cultivate the karma abiding mind, you know. And so that is the reason why we need to develop the karma abiding mind, or meditative concentrations. And so in order to cultivate the karma abiding, you know, mind, then, you know, we need to meditate. And for the meditations to develop karma abiding, to become a more successful, it's important to have all the right conditions, you know. And so some of the conditions that we need to create to have such a strong meditative concentration on karma abiding is, you know, living in a more conducive place for meditation where there's less noise. You know, if there's too much noise, our mind follow. When you hear the noise, your mind follow that sound. So then you get distracted, you know. Where there's a sound of someone chatting, or whether it's a sound of music, or whether it's a sound of a bird or whatever, the moment you hear sound, for a beginner, when we don't have strong meditations, you hear the sound and then your mind started to follow that. Oh, it's a nice sound, or it's a bird sound, or it's someone singing, or this and that, and your mind started to go, nice, not nice, or all kind of different thoughts arises, and your mind get distracted. So if you can find a place where there is less noise, it's better, you know, at the very beginning. Of course, once you have developed the karma abiding mind, then it doesn't matter. You can live in one most noisy place, it will not distract you. But at the very beginning, when you have not achieved that, and you want to achieve that, then that kind of environment, quiet environment, is one of the important factors, you know. Secondly, you know, having few thoughts, not having too many thoughts, or ones, you know. So, you know, if we have too much desire, too much want, you know, then, you know, even when trying to meditate, you know, we wish, I wish, you know, I could have a better environment for the meditations. I wish you know, if you are in the mountain, you know, our desire say, I wish I would be by the beach, you know. If you are by the beach, you wish, you know, I wish I could be in the mountains, you know. So the moment we have that kind of desired thought, again, your mind gets distracted because your mind follows that desire. Again, it becomes an obstacle to keep your mind to the objects of meditations. Therefore, having less desire is helpful. Having less desire and being more content with your situation wherever you are. Of course, we try to, you know, wherever we are, in whatever situation we are, being okay and content with that situations. And so the more you are content, the less desire you have, the less your mind wanders off. The less your mind wanders off, or the less your mind gets distracted, the more stronger your practice meditation is, and the more chance of cultivating the karma abiding, you know. And then, you know, having the foundation or the practice of, you know, pure moral discipline, When you have practice of strong moral discipline, that will help us to be free from many of the gross distractions. And so when you are free from all the gross distraction, then it is more easy to overcome the subtle distractions. So those are some of the conducive condition to cultivate, to develop karma abiding. The better condition we have, when we try to meditate, the better chance of being more successful. Creating the right condition is important. And then, in terms of the meditations, if you are trying to develop a karma abiding or meditative concentration, the object of your meditations. And the object of meditations, can be external objects, internal objects. It can be your breath. It can be an image of the Buddha. You can use the image of the Buddha to develop concentrations or karma abiding, or you can use your breath, or you can use any other image, So for some people, using the image of the Buddhas or another image, maybe they might be able to concentrate better. For some people, they might find more difficult in visualizations on such image. So maybe using a breath for them might be more easier, but it depends on individuals, the objects. It's not like a one object, fixed one object. There you can many different objects. But once we start with one particular object to develop karma abiding, then it's better to keep just one object, not changing the object all the time. If we change object too much, then you cannot develop the stability and the meditative concentration karma abiding. Of course, at the very beginning, we try to see what is more suitable for us individually and which is better. And once we make the choice to kind of decide which object that we want to use it, it can be also nature of the mind itself, And within the nature of the mind itself, it can be conventional nature of the mind, it can be ultimate nature of your mind, So again, those different objects one can use for to cultivate the karma abiding, So that is a little bit on objects. I don't want to go too detailed each of them, And then in terms of the duration of the meditations, at the very beginning, when you are trying to meditate, by using whatever object you decide to use, it is said, the advice given by those great masters, experienced masters, is that we try to do many sessions, but very short sessions at the very beginning. Okay? Instead of trying to do 1 or 2 sessions, long sessions, it's better to do many short sessions at the very beginning. Because at the very beginning, it's more easy for us to focus when it's short, without our mind kind of being distracted and wandering off. And then slowly, as you get better at meditation without being too distracted, without your mind wandering too often, then slowly you try to increase the duration of your meditations, Maybe at the very beginning, maybe we do 5 minutes and many meditations, or 10 minutes of many meditations. And slowly from 5, maybe we increase to 10, or from 10 to 15 minutes. And again, we try to do that meditations over the time. And as we get better at that, without, again, before we can focus, maybe without getting distracted for 5 minutes, and then slowly to 10 minutes. Slowly with the time on 15 minutes without getting too much distraction, without too much wandering of our mind, and then 15 to 20 minutes. So you increase your duration of meditation very slowly, So that is one of the, important kind of advice that we should follow, because that it can be helpful in that, For example, in the morning, if you are doing, 20 minutes, half hour meditations, maybe you can break that into 3 sessions, You do 10 minutes of meditations, and then you can take a break, few seconds or few minutes, while you're still on the cushions, You don't leave the cushions, you just kind of rest a little bit, And again, you start 10 minutes, After 10 minutes, again, you rest a little bit. You don't have to leave the cushion, you're still on cushions, And again, you can kind of move your body a little bit, look around a little bit, and again, you do 10 minutes. So you can, if you are doing half minutes of meditation in the morning, you can break into, 3, 10, 10, 10, And even if it's too long, you can do 5, 5, 5, 5 minutes each as well, So that is one way of how we can improve our meditation, in the sense that we don't get too distracted, and so that we can, when we're meditating, that our mind is there, into the practice meditation itself. So that is one another important instructions, advice given by those experienced meditators, masters. So then in terms of the practice itself, so we talk a little bit why we need to cultivate the karma abiding. We discuss about what should we use the object for meditations, for karma abiding, and we discuss how long the meditation should be, and now we discuss how to meditate and cultivate the meditative concentration on karma abiding. I think there are 2 different ways of presenting it. One is there's 9 stages of meditations, so present them through those first stages to the 9 stages. There's one way of presenting that way. Another way of presenting that you see in the materials, writings, is by presenting how to overcome the 8 obstacle for the meditation karma abiding how to overcome the 5 obstacles or faults by applying the 8 antidote or the 8 practices. And maybe I thought maybe I can present from that today, because we cannot present both. And once you have this method, then the 9 stages is different stages of meditation as you progress. steadily. The 5 faults in our meditations, first of them is laziness. Laziness is one of the false obstacles. Secondly, one of the obstacles is, when you're trying to meditate, sometimes we forget the instruction, like when in meditation we have some kind of, challenges arising, and then we don't know how to deal with those challenges. We don't know the different meditation, different tools to deal with those different obstacles. When the distraction arises, what should we do? When the dullness arises, what should we do? All those different, sometimes we forget that, so forgetting the instructions. Or even when you don't forget the instructions, losing the objects, you get distracted so much that you lose the objects. You are trying to hold the image of Buddha in your meditation, but then your mind is now, other side of the world, doing the tour, traveling and tour. So you lose the object of your meditation. Now the Buddha's image is no more in your mind. Your mind is all over the world doing the tour, touring the world, So you lose the objects, forgetting or losing the objects, that is another obstacles to develop the karma abiding method concentration. And then, the next obstacle, the real actual obstacle in the meditation itself is 2 things. One is distractions, and the one is laxity or dullness. Sometimes either your mind is distracted, your mind wanders off. Sometimes your mind is not distracted or wandering up, but there is no clarity in your mind, feeling a little bit kind of, dull, you don't have the clarity there, So that is because in order to have good meditations, in order to develop a Shamata or karma abiding, not only your mind need to be stable, meaning not distracted, but your mind also need to have clarity. Your mind also need to have clarity. And so therefore those 2 are the distraction and dullness are the main obstacle when you are actually trying to meditate in the meditation itself. And the 4th obstacle is, when you have that obstacle, either distractions or dullness, not applying the antidote is another obstacle. When the distraction arises, being aware of the distractions, and then in order to overcome the distraction, you have to apply the antidote immediately, so you can overcome the distractions. Or when you are aware, your mind is falling into the dullness, being aware of that. Once you are aware of that, then you have to use the meditation antidote to overcome that dullness, so that there is more clarity. So forgetting or not applying the antidote when you need to apply, when you are aware of that, is the obstacles. And the 5th one is when you are free from those obstacles, distraction and dullness. When you are free from the obstacles, then you should practice kind of, equanimity and just rest in that, and not trying to overdo it. When your mind is free from that, trying to apply antidote become obstacles. You don't need to apply obstacles at that time when you are free from those, either distraction, dullness. What you need to just remain and rest in that state. And so, sometimes either we don't do anything, or sometimes we do too much, and both of them become obstacles. The key is finding that balance. you know. And that is one of the difficulty in you know, finding that balance in our meditation is the key, you know. Knowing when we need to push, when you are becoming lazy. When you are being lazy, we need to push ourselves a little bit. But also, when you are not lazy and when you are meditating in practice, we don't want to push too much. We need to know how to rest and relax. You know? So finding that balance, one, knowing when I have to push, when I have to work harder, and how much I need to push, how much I need to work harder, and also knowing when I need to rest, when I need to relax, and how much I need to relax, how much I need to rest, all of that, knowing all of that with our own experience, and then finding that balance is the key for important factors in our practice meditations. You know, so those are the 5 folds, and to overcome those 5 folds, then there are 8 practices or antidotes. That is, the first 4 antidotes are the antidote towards the first fault, that is the laziness, you know. So, you know, the faith, the inspirations, you know, the perseverance and cleansing, those 4 are the first. Cleansing, you know. So the actual antidote towards the laziness is a, you know, perseverance, you know, joyous effort or perseverance in your meditation, your practice. When you have more, you know, joyous effort or enthusiasm in your practice meditations, you have less laziness. When you don't have that joy effort, you know, not only you need effort, you need the joyful effort. You need that kind of enthusiasm. And if you have that kind of enthusiasm, joyous effort, then, you know, we will have less laziness. And in order to develop that kind of enthusiasm, that kind of joyfulness in our meditation and practice, then we need to have the aspirations towards that practice meditations. You know, strong interest and inspiration towards that practice. In order to have that strong aspirations or interest in that practice, we need to have a strong faith in the practice. You know, by understanding what this practice, the benefit of this practice, how that practice can be helpful and beneficial in so many different ways, you know, temporary, on temporary level, on the ultimate level. The more we understand, the more we reflect, the more we contemplate on that, the more faith you have in practice. The more faith you have in practice, the more interest and inspiration you have to develop that practice. The more stronger inspirations and interest you have in that, developing that practice, engage in that practice, the stronger enthusiasm and joyous effort you have in a practice. And with that, you know, that kind of joyous effort, enthusiasm, then you can overcome the laziness. As a result of that kind of joyous effort for perseverance and enthusiasm, then you develop the plancy, that is the result of the practice, the result of the joyous effort. That means your body and mind become more lighter, more flexible. You know, and when your mind and body become more light, more flexible, you know, it helps support your meditations and your practice. At the moment, both our body and mind feel very heavy, you know, not so light, you know, not so flexible, you know, very kind of hard, our mind very hard, you know, not as flexible. But through that kind of meditation, then our mind started to become more and more flexible, more and more light. That with that, it also affects our body to be more, you know, less heavy, more light, more flexible. And with that kind of mind and body, then definitely it helps our practice meditations. You know, we enjoy the practice more, we enjoy the meditation more. And when you enjoy the practice and meditation more, you will be able to do practice and meditation more. You know, then we don't have any excuse not to practice, not to meditate. At the moment, we have so many excuses and not to meditate, not to practice, isn't it? We have no excuse to watch the TV. We find time to watch the TV, no matter how busy we are, aren't we? You know, no matter how busy you are, you always find a time to watch your TV shows. You know, whether it's a news, whether it's a different kind of shows, you make an effort, you find the time to, but we struggle to find 20 minutes for practice and meditations. We struggle and have a difficult to find half hour to practice and meditate in a day. And then we have all the excuse, you know. Sometimes, oh, I'm not feeling so well, or today I'm feeling very tired, maybe I can do tomorrow. Or I have to take care of responsibility in the home, take care of this or this and that. We have all it. But when it comes to watching the TV, we don't have all these excuses, you know. We always find a time, not really find time, we spend hours and hours on that sometimes. Why? Because we enjoy watching the shows, the news and whatever that. So when you enjoy something, you are able to find the time and energy to do that. And that is the key, you know. If we started enjoying our meditation, if we started enjoying our practice, then you will find more time and way to do the practice and meditation. And the more you find time, the more you do the practice, the stronger your practice get, the stronger your meditation get. The more stronger and better your meditation get, then, you know, it leads to more closer and closer to develop the calm abiding, the meditative concentrations, you know. So anyway, so these four are we need to develop those four to overcome the laziness. Yeah. And then next is forgetting the instructions or losing the objects. And to overcome that, then we need to develop mindfulness. Mindfulness, and the mindfulness is a mental state, mental factors that keep your mind to familiar objects. So whatever object that you have been meditating, whether it's the breath, whether it's the image of the Buddha or any other image, or whether it's the nature of your mind, something that you are familiar, you have done that before. So you try that mindfulness mind, try to keep your mind in that objects. Not getting distracted from that. And not the functioning of that mindfulness is to not lose your mind from that objects, not to get move away from the object, not to get distracted from the objects. So when you are trying to develop a strong karma abiding or shamatha meditation, one of the very important practice is mindfulness. Mindfulness. Being in the moment, meaning your mind is with the objects. Instead of your mind being in the past or futures, wandering off, thinking something about the past or something about the futures. Instead, trying to keep your mind in the present, in the moment, with the whatever object you are trying to focus on. So when you have the strong mindfulness, then you will not lose the object. You will not forget the object of the meditations. So you overcome the second fault, forgetting and losing the objects. So that is the mindfulness. So the few practice. And then to overcome the third fault, that is the distraction and dullness, then the practice is, introspection mind or vigilant mind. The introspection or vigilant mind is that mind that analyzes and investigates time to time whether your mind is still with the object or not. If you are trying to meditate on whatever object you are meditating, so time to time, it's like supposedly the child is supposed to do homework, and time to time you open the door and see whether he's doing the homework or not, whether he or she is doing the homework or not, checking time to time whether he's doing the homework is supposed to be same way, checking your mind. We are supposed to be in focus and fix on that particular object. So time to time checking whether my mind is focused and fixed on that object or whether my mind is kind of wandering off, whether my mind is getting distracted or not, whether my mind is being under the influence of dullness or not. So analyzing, investigating that mind time to time is the introspection. Because a lot of time, if you don't have that vigilant or introspection mind, a lot of time our mind is distracted, but we are not even aware we are distracted. Your mind is all over, but you are not even, your body is there, but your mind is all over the world. Your mind is already in the office. Your mind is already, what you are going to do after the office. All of that, your mind is everywhere. Your body is there, your mind is everywhere. And a lot of time we are not even aware of that until much, much later. So introspection mind is checking so that you are aware the moment your mind is getting distracted, then immediately you recognize that, being aware. So you can bring your concentration or your mind back to the objects. And as I mentioned, sometimes it's not just the distraction, wandering mind. Sometimes even your mind is not wandering and distracted, but your mind do not have, clarity. And so you feel kind of like, you are focused on the object, but there's no clarity in your mind, and that is obstacles, dullness. And sometimes, again, we are in that kind of state of mind, kind of dullness, but again, we are not even aware of that for a long time. So introspection mind help us to be aware, whether you are in dullness or wandering or whether you are focused. And if you are in dullness, then you try to apply the right practice technique to overcome that. If your mind is distracted, you try to apply the right antidote to overcome it. And so that is introspection's mind. So in the training of calm abiding, very important tools that we need is mindfulness and introspection mind. Those two are very crucial tools. In many of the scriptures that explain about how to cultivate the calm abiding mind, they give an example of training our mind like a wild elephant, Someone trying to train a wild elephant, of course, they use a example in the old time when they try to train a wild elephant, they're tied with a chain to the trunk, and then they have hook to hit when it doesn't listen, so that it's to subdue it, So by using that, then it similarly, our mind is like that wild elephant. In order to train and subdue that wild elephant mind, then we need the rope of the chain or the rope of the mindfulness. So mindfulness is like the chain and the rope that is tied to the pillars or trunk. So it cannot move wildly as you want, And the introspection mind is like that hook, when it doesn't listen. So then you hit the hook in order to make it listen, and so that you can train. And similarly, we use the introspection mind, the hook of introspection mind to train the mind. So that is how, so those two tools are very important tools to train the wild elephant mind, crazy mind. Or sometimes they say monkey mind, because our mind does not stay still. Mind is always, always busy here and there, like monkey. Have you watched a monkey? It's hard then to sit. If you watch for half hours or even 10 minutes, you will see very hard for them to stay still. They are always busy. Either jumping, playing, or, trying to do something like that with themselves or with others, Very busy, but basically very busy. They cannot stay still most time for a long time. And such is our mind. Our mind is like that. And in order to cultivate the calm abiding, we need to develop that stillness. So in terms of the distractions and dullness, there are gross and subtle level of distraction and gross and subtle level of, dullness, in terms of distractions, when you lose your mind, when you lose the object of your meditation because your mind wanders so much, that is the gross distractions, It's easy to understand. Gross distractions. You are trying to keep the breath or the image of Buddha in your meditation, but now your mind you have lost that and you are somewhere else. Your mind is thinking of something else. It's a gross distraction. In the subtle distractions, you have not lost the objects. You're still, but on one side of your mind is focused on the object. Half side of the mind is thinking of almost going somewhere else. Do you get it? To give you an example of, with the eye consciousness, when you see object, it will be more easier. I'm looking at something there, okay? And then I see something that side, and I look there, I lose the objects. It's the gross one, okay? The second one is more subtle, is I'm still looking at that same object, but at the corner, I see someone going and coming. So I'm looking at both sides. Do you get it? I haven't lost the object that I'm looking before, but at the same time, my eye conscious not fully there because my eye conscious on the other side, I'm also being aware of someone going here and there. Similarly, our minds on mental level also like that. And then, in even more subtle one, you haven't even get distracted with even aware of that person's coming and going, but your mind is just starting, getting ready to get distracted, ready to get distracted. And that's a very subtle level of distractions. And in terms of the dullness, even your mind is focused on the object, but you don't have the clarity on that gross level of the dullness. And subtle level of the dullness, even there's clarity, even though there's clarity, but there is no intensity or alertness. There is clarity, but there's no intensity or alertness. So to develop karma abiding, not only you need stable mind, clarity, but your mind being very alert and intense, And so, and again, that is very, very, one of the very special, unique explanations from the Lama Tsongkhapa, because, even in the past, some of the meditators has confused that they thought they have achieved Shamata or karma abiding because their mind is not distracted, stable, and because they have clarity. But just having stable and clarity doesn't necessarily mean karma abiding if you don't have the alertness. So the mind need to have the alertness on top of the stable mind and clearness in the mind in relation to the objects, and then the alertness. And then to overcome the fourth fault, not applying the antidote when our mind is under the influence of distraction and dullness, is to apply the antidotes, when there is, distractions, then being aware of that distractions and then bringing back your mind to the objects. Trying to bring back the moment you are aware, vigilant mind, the moment you're aware that your mind will get distracted, you don't allow your mind to remain in that, but instead immediately you kind of be aware and catch that, and then try to bring your mind to the objects of meditations. And even when you try to do that, sometimes our distraction can be so strong that we might not be able to stop, because maybe there is some kind of strong desire arises about something or something, and so then you have to overcome that desire before, in order to kind of your mind to be able to focus on the objects. So different meditations to overcome the desire. There is meditation on the impermanent nature of the object of the desire itself, where there is meditation on the unpleasantness and essenceless of the object of desire, the desire itself, or where there is a meditation on the emptiness of the desire and desire, the object of desire and desire itself. So using those different meditation techniques, and you try to overcome the desire, and once you have overcome the desire, and so then there's no distraction, there's no more distraction by that desire, so you can kind of focus on the objects. Just to give one example, that's just one, and that's same with whatever different mind make you distracted. Sometimes it's a worry, sometimes it's a fear, sometimes it is a anger, something that came up, so, or desire, those different, so you try to apply. And if it's a dullness, if it's a dullness, then the state of mind of dullness, laxity or dullness, is when your mind becomes kind of low and down. So you need to uplift your mind, uplift your mind. For example, if you are using an image of the Buddha, as an object of your meditation, sometimes when you feel a little bit kind of dull and not clear in your mind and not alert in your mind, so then trying to visualize that image getting more brighter and more brighter. As you see it brighter and brighter, then your mind becomes more and more alert. Your mind becomes, so trying to think, visualize more brighter and brighter, Or before, when you're trying to just visualize the general image of the Buddha, now you try to go in details, When you are becoming kind of a little bit dull and not alert, then you try to go in the detail of the Buddha's image, how his hair, the color, blue hair and eyes and nose, all of them, you go all the details. It's like wake up, when you go detail, your mind become more active. When your mind become more active, because you are looking at all the details, that make your mind more fresh, more awake, more alert. Once you have gone through that, so once your mind feel more fresh, more alert, more awakened, then again you just try to keep the general image of the Buddha instead of going in the details. If you are using a breath as a practice of your, of your meditation objects, again, when your mind become kind of less fresh and dull, and that again, you have to make your mind more active. So then, you can think, or you can count, oh, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. One, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Or I'm breathing, it is a short breath and it's a long breath. So just being aware of different kind of the breath that you are taking, and all this related to the breath itself, but because you are thinking more detail like that, your mind become again more fresh, more alert, more awake. But once your mind is more awake, more refreshed, then you can go in all these details. Then you just try to focus on the sensations of the breath on your nostril, for example. Then you just keep, So that is some of the method and technique that how we can utilize. And still by doing all of that, still your mind is not so awake, not fresh, alert. Sometimes even with doing that, because your mind is so low, then you have to do some meditation practice to uplift your mind by meditating on Buddha nature, by meditating on, refuge, by meditating on bodhicitta, by meditating on benefit of the bodhicitta and so forth, something that uplift your mind. And sometimes even when you do that kind of meditation, uplifting meditation, still it doesn't help because it's so strong. Then sometimes you just have to fresh, maybe, have some cool water in your face that can wake you up, make you more fresh, and then sit on that. Sometimes you just have to be out and just have a little bit of fresh air, something cool, fresh air, and then maybe that can help you. And again, go back and again try to meditate. So depending on how serious the distraction, depending on how serious the dullness, then different method to overcome those different level of dullness and different level of the distractions. So applying that. And the fifth one is over applying, and the antidote is equanimity. And so when your mind is not distracted and under the influence of dullness, then you don't try to use too much of, you don't use the introspection mind, checking again whether my mind is distracted or not, that become obstacles. And applying the antidote become an obstacle. So in that cases, you try to apply the equanimity, meaning, you just try to rest in that state of mind. Just rest in that state of mind. And through that kind of meditation, resting your mind in that, then, as our practice meditation better, then, then there is kind of plenty, feeling of subtle, flexible and light in your mind, the plenty. And due to that plenty, then it also affect, due to that plenty of the mind, then the wind energy that come through the plenty pervading your body. Having that wind energy pervading your body also started to feel more light, more flexible, more light. By feeling more light and flexible in your body due to that wind energies that is pervading the whole body, then you started to generate a bliss, physical bliss. And due to that physical bliss, then you also develop mental bliss. And when you develop that mental bliss through all of that, that is when you cultivate and develop the karma abiding. And once you have developed the karma abiding mind, then we use the karma abiding mind as a tool to develop the wisdom realizing the ultimate truth. We use that tool to meditate on emptiness. So of course, again, emptiness is such a broad subject, in the monastery, we study, 5, 6, 7 years just on that subject. Even with that, sometimes still it is hard to grasp everything. So it is not subject that can be kind of understood so easily in a short sessions, unless we have a lot of merit from the past, unless we have a lot of imprint from the past, So anyway, but just to touch on that, and there are so many different reasoning and logic from many different point of view to explain the emptiness, but when you talk about emptiness, what we are talking of, empty of what, that is the question we have to ask. Empty of what, because when you talk empty, it could be empty of so many things, So when in the Buddhist scripture, when we talk about emptiness, we have to understand empty of what, that, So it is talking about empty of any object, whether it is the self, whether it is the others, whether it is our self, whether it is our aggregates, our body, mind, feeling, discriminating mind, convolutional factor mind, whether it is the, external, internal objects, phenomena, whatever, that they all are empty of existing independently by itself. Meaning nothing exists independently by itself. Everything exists independently by depending on other factors. Nothing can exist independently without depending on other factors. Therefore, everything, every phenomena is empty of independent existence. As Nagarjuna says, there is no phenomena that is not empty, and there is no phenomena that is not interdependent. So everything is interdependent. Because everything is interdependent, therefore everything, there is nothing that exists independently. Therefore everything is empty of independent existence. There's nothing that exists independently. But the problem, I think, when we use that kind of reasoning mind, when you use reasoning mind and when you analyze and when we investigate, examine, we know that all things seems to exist by interdependent. Nothing seems to exist independently by itself. But the problem with us is when we don't use that kind of analysis in our everyday experiences, because our past imprint from the ignorance, everything appears independently, whether it's the external objects, whether it's the internal object, everything appears to exist independently by itself. Not only it appeared that way, but our mind also follow that appearance and also apprehend and believe all phenomena to exist independently by itself. On the basis of that kind of apprehending and belief, then attachment and anger arises. Through the attachment and anger, then our mind is getting disturbed. And we experience suffering. And due to anger and attachment, then we engage into some action through either body, speech, and mind, or all of them, that hurt and harm someone. And then we create negative karma. As a result of that, again, then we experience suffering in the future. So that's how we create more harm to others, and we experience more suffering and pain. And it's all due to those delusions, and all those delusions, and due to that ignorance, that belief and grasp the object to exist independently by itself. Independent by itself. So, everything is interdependent, interconnected, interrelated. I give some example, that you often find in the teachings, in the sutras and many other teachings, where you find a statement like this: in emptiness, there is no coming, going. In emptiness, there is no dying, rebirth, and so forth, isn't it? In emptiness, there is no self, there is no others. In emptiness, there is no here, there is no there. So take an example of coming and going. What is coming and going? Is there a absolute coming and going? Ultimate coming and going? The act of coming and going by itself? Our mind believe, I see someone coming, absolutely, I'm 100% sure it's coming by itself. When I see my friend going from my room, I say, absolutely, he's going. I have no doubt he's going. That's how we feel in our everyday life. But if you really examine, is this going or is it coming? Okay, someone's leaving my room now. Okay, from my side, I feel absolutely he's going. But is that act coming or going? It's neither coming, neither going. The act itself is going in relation to me, is coming in relation to the person who is waiting there. Do you get it? The person who is waiting there to pick him up, from that person's perception, he's coming. From his point of view, that act is coming. From my perception, from my point of view, he's going. Who is right? Who is wrong? What is that act? Is it coming or going? The act is neither coming, neither going. It is only coming in relation to, from his perspective, is only going in relation to my perspective. It's only coming by depending on that person's perspective. It is only going from my perspective, but the act itself is neither coming and going by itself. Interesting? Normally, in our everyday experience and feeling, we don't see that way. When I see, I think, there's nothing to do with my perception, nothing to do in relation to me. It's absolutely going. And the other person says it's absolutely coming. But if we really analyze, it's neither, the act itself is neither coming and going. It's only in relation to something, in relation to other factors, that it can be coming or going. The act can be coming or act can be going in relation to many other factors. It is not independently coming and going by itself. Same, birth and death. When our consciousness leaves this body, okay, immediately from Buddhist point of view, then it take a rebirth in a pardo, intermediate stage. That very moment, the moment it leaves this body, the consciousness leaves that body, that is same at the simultaneously, at the same time it takes pardo. Okay? So when my consciousness leaves my body, is it dying or taking rebirth? Normally, from my point of view, from our point of view, it's dying. From Pardo point of view, it's rebirth. Those two happen simultaneously. Therefore, is a death only in relation to, independent on the consciousness leaving this body. From that point of view, is a death. In the relation to that is taking the consciousness entering another form in a pardo. From that point of view, is taking a rebirth. So therefore, it by itself is neither death, neither birth or rebirth. It's a death from point of view of this body, this my human body, and it's a rebirth from point of view of the pardo state. In relation to that, independent on that, but by itself is neither death, neither rebirth. So there is no absolute rebirth, there is no absolute death. Independent, pardo independent, independent rebirth and death. Same here and there, From my point of view, you are there. From your point of view, you are here and I'm there. So there is no absolute here and there. It's all in relation to other factors. In relation to your side, from that, in relation to that, independent on that, I feel I'm here. And which is correct. From your point of view, I'm there in relation to two, by depending on that. But independently, absolutely, there's no here, there's no there. All are in relation to other factors. Same with me and others. So all this, so they all are dependent, arising, depending on the others' factors. Nothing exists absolutely or by itself, independently or by itself, without depending on other factors. But as I mentioned before, the problem with us is in our everyday life, due to the previous imprint, there's appearance of absolute by itself, existing absolutely from its own side, independently. And not only there's appearance, we kind of grasp and apprehend, and that lead to the problems, due to that kind of mistaken mind, misconceptions, then it gives rise to the delusions, and that become the cause of our suffering and problems. So therefore, everything is empty of independent existence. Nothing exists by itself without depending on other factors. So, maybe, I guess I will just stop that for that much. So if there is any questions, remark, please feel something to share, if you have some remark to share, or if some question, please feel free.
Geshe-la, thank you so much for your teaching. I wanted to ask you, when you spoke about Shamata, one example, if I heard you right, was that you can develop Shamata on the basis of the mind, either the conventional or the ultimate mind. But how would that be with the ultimate mind? Would you develop simultaneously a Shamata and Vipassana? How would that happen?
In terms of the conventional state of mind, or conventional nature of your mind, the conventional nature of mind is, it is just a pure awareness, pure awareness, knowing that nature without any kind of shape, size, colors, that's how our conventional nature of the mind. And so once you come to have access to that nature of that conventional mind, then you just try to keep your mind just holding that object, the conventional nature of the mind, and not allowing to distract it or wander off. So through that, then one can develop shamatha, definitely, by doing that. The other things is, you try to analyze the ultimate nature of the mind, and once you come to have some understanding of ultimate nature of the mind, that is empty of inherently or independent existence. And so once you come to that kind of understanding, then you try to keep your concentration, your mind, in that emptiness state of the mind, that you have come to the understanding of the emptiness, and without any other distractions and dullness. And through that, that is how you can develop shamatha. But, according to the Tantra, some of the tantric techniques, it is said, one can develop kama abiding shamatha simultaneously. But in sutra, normally is first you have to develop the shamatha, and then the vipassana or the special insight later. So first you need to develop the shamatha. Without cultivating the kama abiding, you cannot develop the special insight, the vipassana, from the sutra point of view. But in tantric, according to the many of the commentaries, in tantric one can develop both shamatha and vipassana simultaneously. So that is slightly different approach and explanations, and also slightly different techniques. So yeah. Any other questions?
So if you like, you can write down on the chat in Portuguese or English. Or you can raise your hand and say in English direct to Geshe-la.
Yeah. If there is, if not, then we can do the dedication. Yes, Anila Tinsigun-sala. I cannot hear you. Okay.
So just wait a bit, Tiago. Brava Constance, she's translating in Portuguese, and then she's going to ask in English. Then
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think you can answer, Geshe-la.
Beg pardon?
I think you can answer. She's translating already.
So what was the question? What is the awareness and what is mindfulness?
Yes, I think you mentioned that, yeah, we get confused what is awareness and what is mindfulness and consciousness and conscious. Or
Uh-huh. The awareness, the way it is used, and also mindfulness, the way it is used nowadays in English term, is very loose, different teachers, different people use slightly differently, but when we have to be precise, mindfulness, as I mentioned, is one of the mental factors among the 151 mental factors, and is the mind mental factors that is not forgetting or losing the familiar objects, and the functioning of that mindfulness is not to get distracted or not to lose the objects. That is what. And awareness, sometimes it is being, sometimes even for wisdom, sometimes some people use awareness as, for example, the awareness, awareness or knowing, sometimes it is also used for knowing, being aware or knowing. Sometimes it is used for wisdom as well, awareness for the wisdoms. But in general, I think it depends on what context one use the awareness, Some teachers, they use, kind of mindfulness and awareness. So awareness as being the result of the mindfulness, the wisdom, the special insight, and sometimes you use awareness as being aware of something. That means being being aware or knowing what is happening, So I guess it depends on the context, how they use it. Yes. And then I think there's one more question, and then we're done.
yeah, is okay, Geshe-la?
Yeah, I hope it is not too long because I class in half hour. Yeah.
Tiago?
Hi.
Yes.
Thanks for your presence. Thanks, Nandro. Actually, it's two questions, but if you can. The first one is about the dissociation practice in a busy life.
Mm-hmm.
When you get was a bit easy abide in the self when you have a very relaxing life, therefore you have a relaxed mind.
Mm-hmm.
And now I got in a kind of busy life, family and business, And it seems like something, a paradigm, I don't know how to say, but you can't take off the shoes of the business of the personality at night and abide in my nature, but how it work, we deal with our relationships in a busy city, abiding that nature and seeing by that eyes. Sometimes I get kind of grasped by the situations. I think I can step back and, okay, my nature is this, everything is empty. But at the time is kind of hard sometimes. And I would like to see your point of view and the spreads of abiding in our nature, in Dharmata, when you're having a busy life. And the other question is about the expression that Advaita Vedanta uses, like when they talk about consciousness, and it's kind of the same thing. I think of what Buddhism calls Buddha nature or Dharmata. But in the practice of meditation of Advaita Vedanta, is like you can't experience because it's your very nature, but you can abide that nature, the Buddha nature. And I don't know if we can have this direct experience, the Buddha nature, by the point of view of Buddhism. I don't know how to explain that question. It comes in my mind, but I can see this approach in Advaita Vedanta, and it's a bit difficult to see the same approach in Buddhism. I don't know if you understood my question.
Not fully. I understood some, and not fully, but again, of course, as you mentioned, for everyone's, it is much more easy to meditate on any subjects, including meditating on your nature of the mind, when we have better conditions, when you have less responsibility, less busyness, it is much easier, and it's much more difficult when you become busy with your job, families, other responsibility, and all of that, especially for a beginner practitioners. Of course, someone who has well advanced practitioners, then it doesn't affect them whether they are busy or not. They can still be in the moment of being very aware, and moment of in that state of the nature of their minds, so they can still relax, mentally, emotionally, and as well as physically, even in those busyness. But for beginner, then definitely the conditions, external factors does have an effect, and so it's much more difficult to practice and meditate in such environment. But again, also, it's not impossible to apply the meditation that we apply when we have less busy, to bring the same meditation even when we are busy, and especially maybe trying to be more mindful, because in busyness, our mind can be stirred up easily by different conditions. And so being more mindful and more aware, and what is going on, and then trying to be in, trying to stay in remember the nature of our mind, and trying to abide in the nature of the mind as much as possible, by recognizing, that the ultimate nature of our mind is, empty of inherent existence, the situation itself is empty of inherent existence. The experience itself, whatever experience we are experiencing due to that event or circumstances, that itself is empty of inherent existence. So there's nothing to hold on, there's nothing to grasp on. So, normally something happens and then some experience arises, and then we hold on that experience, and when we hold on that experience, whether it's a fear, whether it's aversion, anger, desire, it becomes much more painful, more difficult. But when we learn those experiences are also empty of inherent existence, so when you analyze, there is nothing, we cannot find those experiences within its own part, objects by itself. So then you feel there is nothing to hold on, there's nothing to grasp on. And when you feel there is nothing to hold and grasp on, then it doesn't become so solid and so painful as it is. So we can bring that meditations even in that in such situations by applying that way. So yeah, and then of course in terms of the Buddha natures, of course we all have Buddha nature, and and when we talk about Buddha natures, again, then there's the nature of our mind, which is one from the Buddha himself, inseparable from the Buddha. There's conventional nature, there's ultimate nature. Again, there are two levels of the nature, and again, we can have a direct experience to the conventional nature of the mind or Buddha nature, even without having advanced to the high level of realizations. But the ultimate nature of the mind, in order to have direct experience, then you have to reach certain point of your path. Until we reach, the path of seeing, Arya path, then we cannot have direct experience to that. But once you have achieved that path, then somehow an individual can have a direct access to that, at least theoretically from point of view of all the teachings. So, okay, so we do the dedications.
Thank you so much, Geshe-la. Meio que você precisa ver o canal em inglês.
Eu tô mudo, desculpa. Eu tô no canal em inglês, mas tô mudo. Sashi-poki Shoshimeto Trandirabliche Nidevaji Sangejindo Miteuari Lanka Chonchu Kiepada Losante Trove Sasungi Drove Museltagtu Idam Guru Ratnam Kaniliatayavi. Fazer as dedicações.
Dear Geshe-la, first you like to offer to make the offerings virtually. Thank you so much. Maybe to the dedication.
Giwadinyu Dudai Lama Sangye Rugyone Drovashikya Malupa Te Salagopa Cho Chan Chom Cheng Chorin Poche Ma Kepa Nam Ke Gyuche Kewa Nyampa Me Pai Gone Godu Pewa Sho Toni Tawarin Poche Ma Kepa Nam Ke Gyuche Kewa Nyampa Me Pai Gone Godu Pewa Sho. Joia que concede e que realiza desejos, fonte de toda a felicidade deste mundo, sem exceção, ao incomparavelmente gentil, tens enviado seu superior. Que todos os seus sagrados desejos sejam espontaneamente realizados. Tutsum Chanji Jango Gewe Ten Zinkyo Pewe Kunzo Do Podze Chomsum Kunwele Moto Pada Sodo Jegondo Zatensho.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you so much, Geshe-la.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Obrigada, gente.
Obrigado.
Muito obrigada.
Foi ótimo.